Welcome to My on Mondays, an explorative approach to the possessive my through narratives, art, and sound. Each Monday brings a new creation and unique perspective. My on Mondays is brought to you by Ming Studios, a contemporary art space and international artist residency program dedicated to the exhibition, experience, and exploration of arts and culture. Along with exhibiting artists from around the world, Ming also serves the community by hosting innovative programs including performances, workshops, screenings, readings, artist talks, and other cultural activities. For more information, or if you'd like to participate in My on Mondays, you can visit our website at mingstudios.org. Hello and welcome to the 143rd episode of My on Mondays. This past Sunday, July 21st, as part of Ming Studios' performance series, 7 o'clock, three writers, Susan Lasater, Maylene Cavazos, and Rebecca Evans, invited us into their reality with invisible illness. They shared prose and poetry, voicing their altered day-to-day expectations of living with chronic issues. We recorded the evening and are sharing it with you today. Hopefully it brings solace to those listeners dealing with hidden health issues themselves, as well as understanding and empathy to the rest of us. Susan Lasater is a writer, poet, painter, and zine maker. She earned her Bachelor of Arts in Visual Art from Boise State University. Her work explores empathy and fragmentation. Susan has hosted events at the Irma Heyman House and received grants from the Alexa Rose Foundation and the Backyard Artists. Her paintings have been published in Beyond Words International Magazine of Art and Literature, and she's grateful to the Ninja Turtles who encouraged her to wear a back brace in public. Maylene Cavazos' insatiable pursuit of self-knowledge leads her to unconventional paths, from Wim Hof method instructor breathing psychedelic experience to van-dwelling woodswoman chronicling spirit encounters. She holds an MA in organizational psychology, works in corporate IT, writes, and occasionally makes delicious tortilla soup. Rebecca Evans, who's a frequent contributor to My on Mondays, is a Pushcart-nominated poet who writes the difficult, the heartful, the guidebooks for survivors. Her poems and essays have appeared in Narratively, The Rumpus, Brevity, Hypertext Magazine, War, Literature and the Arts, The Limberlost Review, and more. She's authored the memoir in verse, Tangled by Blood, and a collection-length poem, Safe Handling, which was just released this month. She's a disabled veteran, sharing space with her 4 Newfoundlands and her sons in a tiny Idaho town, and does her best writing beneath her stairway in a hidden cove. So tonight's program is called Body Talks. The three writers we have here tonight, Susan Lasater, Maylene Cavazos, and Rebecca Evans, are inviting you into their reality with invisible illness. They share prose and poetry, voicing their altered day-to-day expectations of living with chronic issues. So our first writer that we have tonight is Susan Lasater. Susan Lasater is a writer, poet, painter, and zine maker. She earned her Bachelor of Arts in Visual Art from Boise State University. Her work explores empathy and fragmentation. Susan has hosted events at the Irma Heyman House and received grants from the Alexa Rose Foundation and the Backyard Artists. Her paintings have been published in Beyond Words International Magazine of Literature and Art. Susan is grateful to the Ninja Turtles who encouraged her to wear her back brace in public. Welcome, Susan.
This is the hardest part about this because I don't move, so I have to have. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight, braving the heat to be here. We're really excited for tonight. I think you'll feel the feelings tonight and enjoy. So I'll start off with a shorter piece and then go deep. So this one is called Fishy Science. If every time you swallow a sip of water or a bite of nutrients, you feel a fish gulp from your belly, How would you know to tell anyone? When dining with others, you see them cover their mouths as they swallow and chew. You assume they are guarding the fins inside to prevent their fish from escaping. It must be important to keep the fish inside, since you've never seen someone expel a fish. Further, it seems normal to soothe the fish by patting your chest when its fins tickle your throat. That is, until one day you mention it to a trusted friend. You say, "I think my fish has growing pains. Its mood swings are frequent and it thrashes my esophagus daily." Your confidant stares at you like you're making up a children's story. It's not a story, it's biology. But they think you don't know what you're talking about. You say, "It's a goldfish with black stripes. I've always had it. Haven't you had one?" But your friend doesn't know about their fish, so they assume your fish can't exist. When your fish has a bad day, you have to bend yourself in half or lay prone on the floor until its fins relax. When it's stressed, it nibbles on your stomach's lining. But if you place your hand on your belly with slight pressure, it stops swimming laps. Its tail pauses its smacking against your organs. It stops wiggling and blocking your pyloric sphincter. Sometimes, if you eat fiber, it conducts traffic at the gastroesophageal junction, ordering U-turns to make room for its fins to moonwalk, like Michael Jackson. I guess it's more like a moon swim in the fundus of your stomach. Unfortunately, if every time you talk about your pescado, that means fish in Espanol, people say it's not something to discuss, to keep it private, to only tell a person in a white coat in a small room and trust their experience with how to treat a fish inside a body. How do you tell anyone about the white coat's aquatic obsession? Why talk when no one listens deeply? Is it a fish problem, an inner solution, a swallow too hard to harbor the unexplainable, or just the truth that swims below your diaphragm? How can you talk about your fish, what's normal to you, when everyone else is in denial? You watch as everyone gulps down eggs, sourdough toast, bacon and hash browns, orange juice and coffee. You wait for your fish to wake after a late night dancing inside you, and they say, "You must not be hungry." The truth is, you want to eat, attend dinners, cook your grandma's recipes, and attend barbecues. The saltines, toast, plain white rice, and green apple nutritional shakes are so boring. But your pescado doesn't care. Whether they see your pescado or not, the little fish continues to swim. And the aquarium specialist says, "There's nothing to do. Try not to upset the goldfish. This is your reality now. But hey, at least you don't have a koi." Thank you. This next piece involves some of the pictures on the wall and the painting on the table here. So when you get a closer look at them, you can think about this. Also, my husband says I should give a disclaimer to the audience that it's okay to laugh. Sometimes my humor seems inappropriate to laugh at because of the situation, but humor is what got me through all this medical stuff, so you can get angry, laugh, whatever. So this is called What Emma Sees. In my art studio, a master suite turned into a labyrinth of supplies and height-adjustable tables. I gather drawing supplies for Emma, my 11-year-old niece. She stares at my easel and then tilts her head. "Susu, why don't you paint a whole person?" I pull 3 blank pages from a drawer and turn to her. "What do you mean?" She points to the faces hung on the wall, then at the 18 by 24 canvas, layered with thick acrylic. It's of my back incision with 72 staples. The 6 by 8 canvas is of my stitched neck with a drainage tube. Emma taps her finger against her chin. All your paintings are parts of the body. I flip through a stack of art on the floor, as if I have a hidden painting that will satisfy her curiosity. Emma giggles and says, I already looked, silly. It's just more pieces of the body. I fumble with a gouache painting of 2 hands pierced by IVs and an abdomen loosely covered by a green hospital gown. I start to say, what about this one? But quickly realize the perspective of the figure in the painting is cropped at the nose and only shows arms as they are positioned and injected with a shot by 2 partially rendered figures. Behind me, my most recent painting is a singular hiking boot. The foot that used to wear the hiking boot 10 years ago, before all the surgeries, is invisible. I painted only 1 shoe. Emma rolls her shoulders back. I don't get it. I set the fresh paper and pens in front of her. What do you think of these paintings? I ask. They're pretty and realistic and painty. But why don't you paint everything in one painting instead of a head, a hand, or spine and all of these? I smile. Emma has always asked me questions. Why do you always rearrange your furniture? Why do you like strawberries? How did you teach little Louie to whisper? When can we make art together? Where's some sketch paper? When she was 5, she pointed to my plaster back brace. Susu, tell me again, why do you have to wear this thing? I had tried explaining my surgeries, but it wasn't something she could see other than the hard brace and my neck collar. I didn't want to scare her with my scars. To make it real, accessible, I showed her my x-ray on my phone. My spine wasn't strong, so I needed all these screws and rods to support me. I'm still healing, so that's why you and your brother have to be gentle around me. Her eyes grew 3 sizes, and then she clapped her hands together. Oh, so that's why you walk like a robot. I walk like a robot? Yeah, like this, but it's okay. Now I get it. She demonstrated my robotic walk. It looked as if she was carrying an extra-wide dictionary on her head, afraid to make any uncoordinated movements, like a young deer walking into the forest alone. Today's question is profound, and I don't have an answer. I tell her to draw an axolotl while I think of a reply. A few years ago, my therapist said, those who go through trauma have their sense of self shattered into parts. Perhaps it's a protective mechanism to contain the danger. True healing happens when you accept all the broken parts to become whole again. He leaned forward and creased his forehead. I believe there is a part of you that is unscathed, and when you find it, everything will fit back into place, not the same as before, but as one again. I'm sure I nodded, scribbled it down in my notebook, tried to sit with it, then changed the subject to something more concrete, like my nightmares. My husband and I met in drawing class. One day he stared at my sketches and shifted his weight. I know you like drawing, but I think someday you'll see you're a painter. Just try one painting, and if you don't like it, you can go back to drawing. So I painted a self-portrait, and then he offered me another canvas. Slowly I agreed with him and bought palette knives to scrape paint against panels of wood, stretched canvas of various sizes, and canvas paper. I painted a former doctor in a jumpsuit from his arrest photo on the news. I painted ceiling tiles, blurred, and my view from my hospital bed. And then I started painting portraits from my imagination. Last year, my husband wrote about my paintings in his notebook, a journal that had ripped all my writing out of and given to him. He wrote, "My wife has painted several self-portraits so far, but it seems to me that she doesn't realize that the person she is painting is herself. For some reason, if reason is a valid word, she doesn't recognize herself. The portraits have the same features, artifacts, haircuts, etc., but still, it isn't her. She paints them compulsively with no care to idolize them, no intention to make them look heroic. It's like she's asking the portraits, "What happened to you?" If a painting is a practice of dissociation, displacement of the self, then her self-portraits are examples of something missing. It's strange. I ask her, "Don't the scars reveal that to you? Don't you remember the pain your body suffered? Or maybe you never knew. Perhaps at an early age you dissociated so much that you weren't able to recognize yourself." I agreed it sounded like an artist statement, but it didn't apply to my work. The faces I painted looked nothing like me. It couldn't be me. I was painting a figure with unbearable pain and agony. A few months later, I showed my former drawing professor my paintings. He studied the 6x6 portrait with the blonde shoulder-length hair, a hollow face layered by scraped paint. He asked, "Is this you?" I laughed. "I made the person up." He raised his eyebrows and nodded. "Interesting, because she does look like you. Is the figure dead?" I like the tension from the ambiguity. I look at Emma. "Do you think these are of me?" She blinks, then nods in that preteen way of saying, yeah, then points, "Especially that one." I fold my arms and brace myself to look up. How could it be me? I set a mug full of pens and charcoal pencils next to Emma so I can stare at the 6x6 portrait of a woman with the black background. It can't be me. But Emma isn't the first to bring it up. The hair looks like mine, but the face is distorted. It's serious, yet sad. If this is a self-portrait, is this who the doctors saw? It was over a decade ago when I had 3 complaints written on my new patient intake form: allergies, headaches, and back pain. The university doctor straightened her jacket with both hands and said, "We can talk about your headaches, allergies, or back pain. Insurance policy. You have to have an appointment for the other concerns." I had to pick. 2 weeks later, I returned from a separate appointment to discuss my back pain. After the printout of generic back stretches didn't help, she referred me to an orthopedic surgeon. He took x-rays, then said, "The deformity isn't bad enough for surgery, but since you're having bladder concerns, you should see a urologist." The urologist said, "Certain foods can irritate the bladder wall, so you should talk to a dietitian." The dietitian said to eat more fiber. When I returned to my primary doctor, I gripped a green vomit bag. She wrote the date on her prescription pad with a Zoloft-sponsored pen. She said, "Don't worry yourself so sick about your health." Then she sent me to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist said, "I can prescribe meds, but you should get a therapist who you can talk to regularly to work on your anxiety." The therapist said, "The mind influences how the body feels. All physical issues start in the mind." We had to sit in the dark because the light worsened my ever-present stabbing headache. When antidepressants didn't fix my physical symptoms, I vomited during one of our weekly sessions, which prompted him to suggest I call my doctor. Maybe it's a side effect of antidepressants. Next, I found a new primary doctor and told him about my heart palpitations and stomach issues. He said it was just from not drinking enough fluids, and suggested I try a new antidepressant and add a mood stabilizer. It didn't matter that I couldn't keep water down. As months passed, I went to chiropractors, physical therapists, occupational therapists, ultrasounds, x-rays, CT scans, MRIs, blood draws, and nerve conduction tests. Finally, an ER physician said, "You need to see a specialist, but for now you need a walker, prednisone, and to follow up with your primary as soon as possible." The urologist sent me to a neurologist who referred me to a neurosurgeon who said my spinal cord was dying and just keep doing what you can while you can. He said not to bother with neurology follow-ups as there was nothing to be done other than cut my spinal cord in half. When I asked the neurosurgeon what a normal bladder capacity was, he stared at me with a gaping mouth, as if I'd just asked for his wife's social security number. "You're asking a brain surgeon about the capacity of a bladder?" I had the urge to pluck each of his crooked, overgrown, bushy eyebrows. Finally, the physical therapy clinic wrote letters for my primary to refer me out of state. I sought second opinions and then third and fourth opinions until I found someone who didn't Google my diagnosis in front of me. The experts explained my spinal cord was tethered. My skull was sliding on my spine, causing brainstem compression. I was given a packet of tests I needed. My doctors in Idaho finally had a guide. The cardiologist strapped me to a table and tilted it. The technician broke protocol and asked, "Does your heart always go this fast when you stand?" Dang. Finally, the palpitations were relieved, and I was diagnosed with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. The stomach issue was severe gastroparesis, the partial paralyzation of my stomach. Fiber makes it worse. During that test, the radiologist said, "I am so sorry you have suffered so much. Why didn't your parents test you in utero to avoid all this?" To avoid all this, to prevent me. After a few years of exams, insurance denials, travel to multiple states, 7 surgeries, and the orthopedist who said the bone sticking out of my spine was just soft tissue, nothing to worry about, I learned how the system worked. Emma looks up at me from her pencil sketch. Her soft curls bounce as she asks me again, "So, is it annoying to you to paint a full body?" Her voice is sweet and patient. I sigh. It's obvious now. I see what happened. My body was fragmented by departments of cardiology, neurology, psychiatry, gastroenterology, pulmonology, optometry, physiatry, social work, gynecology, urology, physical therapy, rehabilitation, pain clinics, genetics, rheumatology, and imaging. I split myself into parts so I could be seen. I want to tell Emma my next painting will be whole, but I don't want my hand to see what my spine went through while my eyes were taped shut. Emma traces her pencil marks with a pen. "Maybe you just need a bigger canvas to fit everything." I nod and sit down across from her and pick up the pen. Maybe that's all I need. When Emma was a baby, I could pick her up. I didn't care if my back would ache from holding her. I wanted her to know her Aunt Susu. Now she is almost taller than me. She grew up around my medical adventures. I don't know why it's taken me so long to see myself, even when my husband and others saw me first. Emma simply recognizes me, even if I paint myself in sections. To Emma, I am whole. Maybe next I will paint the full body, tell my full story. I'll try to see myself as Emma does, no longer shattered. Thank you.
Move this back up. So, thank you so much, Susan. Next we have Rebecca Evans. Rebecca Evans is a pushcart-nominated poet who writes the difficult, the heartful, the guidebooks for survivors. Her poems and essays have appeared in Narratively, The Rumpus, Brevity, Hypertext Magazine, War, Literature and the Arts, the Limberlost Review, and more. She's authored the memoir in verse, Tangled by Blood, and a collection-length, did I get that right? And a collection-length poem, Safe Handling. released now. It's here. Moontide Press 2024. She's a disabled veteran sharing space with 4 Newfoundlands and her sons in a tiny Idaho town, and does her best writing beneath her stairway in a hidden cove. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you so much, and I just want to echo, thank you, JR, for that beautiful introduction, and Susan, thank you for pulling this all together, and everyone for pausing their life to come out and be part of this experience and share this with us, and suffer the heat, right? So hopefully you're cooled off in here. I'm going to read from different parts of different works, so I'll talk a little bit about them in between. And all of my work, no, not all of my work, but my work that I'm willing to put in the world is available over on the table. So the first piece I want to read is a poem from my memoir in verse called Tangled by Blood. And this book transverses childhood sexual trauma into healing as a mother. And I'm going to read one of the earlier poems in the book, which goes through this bout of eating disorders. And so my disabilities are fairly widespread. I think I'm like a 200% disabled veteran. So many weird things wrong with me. This is called Relief. I was that girl slicing wrists in showers. Certain warm water breath would rush life out. Uncertain if I welcomed death or stormed alarms, urging someone find me alive. Maybe I craved a savior. Later, I'll date men striving to save me. I was that girl swallowing pills, gulping handfuls of aspirin, a pre-numbing for suffering should I survive. They pumped my belly till amber phlegm flowed. I stayed sad, not gaining the good fortune to die. I was that girl chalking chalky laxatives, ingesting entire boxes, my insides cramped, spilling fluids streaked with cardinal blood. Skin thinned, crossed, laced bones, my body fuzzed with deprivation, disappearing in bathrooms to disappear. I was that girl, calloused first knuckle, harder heart, gouging, purging, until brown bile speckled porcelain. I'd rinse, not swallow, until tepid water turned sweet. I'm still the girl, slicing and swallowing, gulping and gouging, praying precious relief, rinse away me hating. Baptized in rebirth into girl, the girl, that girl, still small but finally at rest in her palm. Thank you. And this is a currently unpublished poem called Not at 10 and 2. Like 1,000 paper clips everywhere. I steer with my elbows on the wheel, not at 10 and 2, more like 7 and 4. As my 3 sons bicker in the back, argue which of them holds the most flesh. Who's devoured if a hungry lion catches us, they ask. They remind me, you're driving too slow, Mom. Mommy. I smile. I don't nod. I can't nod. I push the signal arm up with my knee, right turn, and use my mirrors to guide us through the onslaught of cars, trucks, horses. I drive my sons because busing seems a dangerous course for my oldest, 13 and disabled. He's vulnerable to strangers and predators, and yes, most likely lions. But aren't we all? Idaho inversion settles in layers, our upside-down atmosphere. And I wonder if there's a way the handless drive with their feet, though I'm not handless. My hands dangle, my grip gone. And I'm thankful my collapsing neck waited to crumble. A few years back, I needed to look both ways before, when we, my sons and me, fled my now ex from our fake, posh, and polished life into a safe house. They call trauma's afterglow the letdown effect. After fighting, freezing, the body flashes and rushes, and here it falls apart. My youngest, only 5, teaches me to stay within the lines, a colored pencil rubber banded to my limp hand. Here, on the road, the weather upside down, my son's deciding that the lion would grab the smallest, the slowest first, which brings tears to my 2 most vulnerable, my youngest and my oldest. Here, I steer and stay between the lines, following the stream of warm air, a long sheet of veiled cloud, finding my way, our way, home. Thank you. This is a very short prose essay. It's called Chiseled. I started with a bag of nacho cheese Doritos and a 2-liter of generic pop. I can't remember if we called it pop or soda, but I do remember I'd finished basic training. During those 6 weeks at Lackland, I lived on dry chicken and stiff mashed potatoes, most likely rehydrated flour and paste and not potatoes at all. The purge came easy, too easy. I bent over, thought about some man, vomited. No inducing necessary. I thought, kinda normal, kinda natural. At some point, I bought a scale, and weighing below 120 became my non-military mission. When my weight rose, say, to 121, I bought a box of Correctol from the base exchange, gulped 3 tablets, and within a few hours, I shat water. By morning, my cheekbones chiseled and my eyes hollowed, and I noted my brow bone. My shadow dipped, curving into new territory, luscious, sultry. Like all addictions, one hit pivots into 2, then 20, then to many to count. My binges grew into buffets, increasing with 2, sometimes 3 bags of groceries. Who knew the stomach could descend this far? Who knew it could return? I'd retch until my stomach cramped, and curiously, I maintained a 6-pack. Puke crunches, I called it. My new weight mission shifted, 110. Within a few months, those 3 pink tablets no longer depleted my face into the dehydrated look I learned to love. I found myself gulping an entire box, 24 tablets, the pink chalk coating offering a pre-gag. My supervisors witnessed my gorge, witnessed my wasting too. They thought me anxious, thought me dying. They failed to intervene. In the military, you do not break or crack or shatter, but you can shrink. I remained fake whole and boned. One time after my binge and purge and my box of laxatives, my body couldn't quit, would not stop its emptying. My kidneys did, quit. Renal failure, they called it. I weighed 100 pounds. I stood before my full length, rubbing my palms over my jutting hips, twirling slow and model-like. I glanced at my back ribs. I slipped on jeans, size 0, without unfastening. Still, my body held inches I could pinch. I found a new mission, below 100. My heart palpitated, potassium deficiency, they called it. And later, much later, I'll think about the way starvation offers more than a sense of control or feeling of thinness. It gives an eternal longing to die, a slow and tedious path to suicide, one less morsel at a time. Food settling on your tongue or stuck in your bowels seems an invasion, and in moments of small satiation or minor fullness, memories of raids and intrusions, men infiltrating my child body, my woman body, would fill me more. So I grew too thin and fragile for them, all of them, to notice me, to see what was left of me. Perhaps this illness is simply an act of disappearance, one's fight for invisibility, self-preservation through the art of emancipation. I called it, and it worked. It really worked. Except for my heart and kidneys. And my book that's just released called Safe Handling, which is a collection-length poem. I'm just going to read one page of this, but this is like a whole journey through the medical system with my adult disabled son, but this was when he was much younger, and he was having heart surgery out of state. So this is just a small section of the journey. Baggage. Who decided our hurt is baggage? I mean, why not name our pain luggage, something we can unpack? The nurse gazes across the operating table, locks my eyes, her lashes wet and wilty. She is not sterile like the others. Do you know my heart is more defective than my son's? No, I'm more disabled than most. No, some call this hidden. Do you know me? Do I know myself? Do you know that I'm slow to sleep and quick to anxiety, and that there are few open spaces between? I realize I rarely cry. I might have few tears remaining. Maybe I've worn out my heart too. Maybe I'm worn away. But now we wait. The most difficult times in life require extended periods of waiting, war, dying, silence. How the human heart endures long, lone hours, months, years. Thank you. And I'm going to finish with a longer piece, which revolves around that, the concept of the letdown effect. So this is called the letdown. The last time shit hit the fan was 14 years ago. I fled. Before that, the shit hit the fan daily, sometimes hourly. And if I calculate it right, it took 6 years to courage up and finally flee. Near the end of those 6 years, in the center of fan hitting shit, I spent 6 months sneaking documents. Think birth certificates, passports, medical records, and Grandma's famous chop suey recipe, the one she fought family over when they published it in a cookbook and credited someone else. I hid those papers in my backpack, and while at Albertsons, I stopped at the U.S. Bank inside and tucked them in my secret safety deposit box. I did not sleep those last 6 months. When I say I did not sleep, I mean my eyes would not close. My body, high on alert and adrenaline, knew better than to rest. My body dropped 15 pounds, most likely bone density and muscle. During this time, I kept rereading lines from a book, and at the end of each paragraph, I couldn't tell you what I read. I couldn't recall names, faces, serial numbers. It felt like combat. It felt like war. I slept in jeans and sneakers with a flip phone tucked in my front pocket, my driver's license in the other, and a small wad of cash pushed into my bra. I was ready to launch. They say that the body holds stress and the cervical spine traps in piriformis. After we, my sons and me, fled, we stayed in a safe house, and after 6 weeks, we moved into rental. Here, I woke every hour, checked and rechecked locks. I taped green lawn bags over garage windows so my ex would not know if I was or was not home. The Meridian Victim Protection Unit advised me to install lights in the backyard. I lit that house up. I slept with lights ablaze. I kept my brain flaming. The first night in that house was quiet. I mean the loud kind of quiet. My sons zing and in their sleep. No man shouting at me, "Get your ass out of the shower and do something productive." Or, "Why did you take your makeup off? You look like a hag." I sat in that bath, nerve endings firing, afraid to move or make a sound. I sat listening for something to crack. I might have. Cracked, that is. If you're unfamiliar with your piriformis, it's a deep muscle crossing beneath your glute, the intersection where the head of your femur inserts into the socket of your pelvis. 2 years after my fleeing, which would be 12 years ago, my body broke. My left hip developed avascular necrosis. My uterus and ovaries grew growths. My left shoulder tore, along with my left bicep. No, I did not endure a car crash this time, or fall from the roof. I believe I suffered the letdown effect. a condition following stressful events or periods when the body, no longer in fight or flight, releases. All those nights on high alert rolled off and out of me, and my body let go. To say something, or more accurately, someone is a pain in the neck or ass, is scientifically true. There are 7 vertebrae in the cervical spine. 35 years ago, while serving in the military, I suffered severe whiplash from an accident. My neck took the hit. They, the military, wanted to slice me open, staple or pin or superglue me back together. I did not want some Air Force surgeon practicing his skills, so I kindly declined. 10 years ago, which would be 4 years after my fling and 2 years after my letdown, my neck collapsed. Just like that. 2, maybe 4 discs ruptured and pushed into my spine. My hands went boneless and pain seared from ear to fingertips. Bone grafts and restructuring fixed my neck, along with a year of physical therapy to regain lost skills, like zipping my own pants, getting a fork back to my lips. 9 years ago, a year after my rebuilding and 5 years following my fleeing, I'm able to garden. And I'm making weeds and fits by the fistful, some bitchy female on the set talking smack, which might be considered shit hitting the fan, but in comparison to my wars and my ex, well, I'm just miffed. But the next day, I couldn't move. And when I say couldn't move, I mean my entire right side hangs or droops. My eyelid, my smile, my hand, my foot. Here, more discs, more ruptures. My neck falls apart again. After my second repair, the surgeon tells me, your body rejected the sternum graft. It will take another rehabbing year to hold a pen, turn a door handle, brush my teeth. In the mornings, when I rise, my piriformis and neck are stuck. I can't cross my legs, one over the other, at the knee or the ankle. I can't tilt my head, ear to shoulder, but an inch. I can't turn my head left at all. Last Sunday, 14 years after my fan shit fleeing and 9 years following my second rehabbing, my front door handle falls off when a guest enters for my goddess party. If you're not sure what a goddess party is, it's this little event that I curated for my son's partner, who was about to download my first grandbaby. We gathered. We made soap and candles and bath salts and painted rocks and collage journals and ate and ate and ate. This in place of a baby shower. This about self-care for the mama. But now my door handle, no longer a handle, sits in a stack of hardware near my turntable. It's a Sunday, but I told you that. I text Kevin, my handyman, and he can't help until Monday. If this were 8 or 12 years ago, nearer the moment of my flight, I'd pack my children and pets and find a hotel. But this is now. And right now I have 4 Newfoundlands. If you tried to push through my door, you'd be met with 600 pounds of bark and fluff. You wouldn't see water rescue dogs. You'd see 4 beasts who look like bears and cows. The wolf pack howling would intimidate even a Green Beret. If you watched my morning struggle, hips and neck strung tight, you'd think me 600 years old. But like all things that move, there's an oiling. And though crunchy, I'll gain some glide as the day moves on. I woke this morning, 14 years out of that marriage, the day following my goddess gathering, and crawled to the bathroom after I told Alexa, play Sinead O'Connor, thank you for hearing me, play on repeat. I pushed my body into forward folds, cobras, swans, and camels. I poured myself a cup of joe, poured my body back into my chair, lifted my pen and thought, I slept without the front door secured. My body managed the stress, this knowing of potential intrusion, my continuous terror of one more man forcing entry into my home, my being, ripping me, which never heals as neat as a clean cut. Did I mention I have been torn? Did you know the piriformis aids in almost every movement of your lower body? Did you know this flat, narrow muscle runs from your spine through your butt into the top of your thighs? Last night, After my goddess gathering and 14 years from my flight, 12 years from my letting down, 10 years from my spine collapse, I slept. Let me say that again. I slept. Maybe 3 hours in a row, perhaps 5 total. That's the best I can do, which is better than my sleep hygiene 14, 12, 10, even 5 years back. Back then, you'd find me upright through the night, a can of wasp spray, which reaches twice as far as mace. That can in one hand, and car keys to click the alarm in another. The small lamp on my roll top lit, night lights like fireflies glittering my hallways, my address and numbers unlisted, my statement at medical establishments. Do not give out my personal information to anyone but me. This house I bought 7 years ago has no garage windows, which I only realized while writing this narrative. So for those who have been torn, they understand the hard-earned climb to peace. They know the journey through the layering to simply feel safe. Peace and safety seem foreign, like someone else's language, and I am not native to calm. Yet here my body shows me her ass, her neck, her letting down, and her rising up. She shows me through her own fleeing and rebuilding. She will manage. She will manage in spite of me and for me, and she will manage far better than me the next time shit hits the fan. Thank you.
The whole time I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, how are you raising your children? Like, you're incredible. Thank you, Rebecca. So, to end the evening, we have Maylene Cavazos. Insatiable pursuit of self-knowledge leads her to unconventional paths. From Wim Hof method instructor breathing psychedelic experiences to van-dwelling woodswoman chronicling spirit encounters. She holds an MA in organizational psychology, works in corporate IT, writes, and occasionally makes delicious tortilla soup.
Okay, so I'm going to invite you to stand up if you want to, and we're just going to do a couple breaths. So if you want to stretch, you want to move a little bit, and then fully in. Then exhale out. Unshake it a little bit. Okay, we'll do that 3 more times. Fully in. Then exhale out. Okay, 2 more times. Fully in. And exhale out. 1 more time. Make it your best. Fully in. And exhale out. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and sit down if you want. I understand if you need to move or stand up. I totally get that. This is a lot. It's heavy stuff, some of it. Okay. I want to tell you a little bit about my mental illness. See, I even have a hard time saying it. It is difficult because I've spent most of my life trying to make sure you know nothing about it. I cannot show you because how many people show their craziness and have gone to jail or been hospitalized? A lot. I have scared off too many people to be totally transparent. So, I will do the best I can using my words. But there's another barrier. I struggle with wanting to tell you anything. The last thing I want is for you to feel bad for me or think less of me. I don't need your pity or for you to feel bad or worse yet, your reproach. So why do it? The first reason is obvious. I don't want to disappoint Susan. Second, maybe it will educate, even if a little. Media makes bipolar dramatic, showing you the stereotypes of good TV. But if you know something about bipolar, maybe you'll have compassion for the crazy person on the street. Maybe you won't wince or be repulsed when you hear the term mental illness. Whatever awareness does for causes, maybe it will do that. 3, solidarity. Maybe one of you has bipolar, and maybe this reading will make you feel a little less alone. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, I want to tell you about my mental illness because I want you to see me. Even the part where the chemicals in my brain go fireworks kaboom and you don't know what's going to happen next, my body talks with energy pulsing through my veins as fire, flames high. Maybe I want you to see that part too, to be my witness, to stand firm in your own security and know my beauty. First, a little bit about bipolar. You know when you get up too fast and all you see is black? Your hearing goes to a high-pitched noise and dizziness makes you hold onto the wall? Or when you've had a concussion and all the lights go off? A little change in blood and reality shifts. Awareness changes, senses stop functioning. The brain is fragile, and a perfect balance makes up what we consider a normal reality. Bipolar is a combination of imbalances in the brain, of energy, chemicals, and electrical signals. These imbalances cause extreme increased or decreased energy, expressing as mania or depression. Now, everyone experiences highs and lows, but when it impairs your ability to live a well-functioning life for an extended period of time, it becomes diagnosable. Bipolar 1 is more extreme. Hallucinations can be visible and hospitalizations are more frequent. Bipolar 2 is less extreme. I've heard bipolar 1 and 2 differentiated in this way. Bipolar 1 is like missing 2 arms. You can't hide it as well. Bipolar 2 is like missing 1 arm. It's easier to hide, but still difficult to manage. I have bipolar 2. I like to think I can type the game of life with one hand pretty dang well. Bipolar can begin with a traumatic head injury, and so anyone can get it. But don't worry, it's not contagious, unless you have a relative who has it. They aren't sure how it works, but let me tell you about the mechanisms of my medicine. The first one is Lamictal. It decreases the irregular electrical impulses in my brain. Epileptics use it as well. But unlike seizures, you can't always see my episodes physically. The other medicine is Wellbutrin. It stops norepinephrine from being reabsorbed in the brain, leaving more of it available for use. It's an NRI antidepressant. One medicine decreases electrical energy, one medicine increases chemical availability. Okay, so I'm going to take a little break. If you want to stand up, I'm going to do 3 breaths. You can do breaths. Fully breath in, and let go. Okay, 2 more, fully in, and let go. 1 more, fully in, and let go. Thank you. All right. What unmedicated bipolar feels like for me. Imagine you live on a boat. Waves get rough, threatening to throw you overboard. You ride the boat holding onto posts on the way up and sinking your feet on the dock going down. Even on the calm, sunny days, the shakiness of this reality undulates underneath your feet. Before my diagnosis, I thought all of your bodies experienced this instability. I just thought you all were professional surfers. When I get thrown overboard, sadness can overtake me. The world disappears and all I can taste is salty blue. Dark blue, like turbulent ocean waves in a storm. They submerge me into the muffled quiet. Underwater, time slows, beckoning me to go deeper where the shades of green turn black. Just as I reach down into the stillness, accepting that the storm might end there, strong waves pull me back to the surface, leaving me gasping for air amid the crackling of thunder and pelting of rain. I suck down a combination of air and water that feels at the same time like drowning and surviving. I flap my arms, tread water with my feet, look to the sky for perhaps a lifesaver, only to be pummeled by another wave, plummeting me into the bubbles, deeper into the undertow. The cycle continues, leaving me neither the serenity of the black nor the safety of a boat. When the energy sprays me into the air, I fly. I get a lot done. I come up with creative ideas. I get everyone in the room high off of my detached, ignorant bliss. Buzz, zip, zap, buzz. Thousands of bees in my body buzz, ready to move. There isn't anything I can't do. Or if the forceful energy turns gray, I become a hazard, flexing muscles, punching pillows, rage and anger, thunderbolts and explosions. High amounts of energy take me higher and higher until all of a sudden the energy stops. 90 feet in the air without any cushion to fall down onto, I fall down splat onto the ground. Fatigued, disappointed, and unable to stand from the fall, depression sets in. Nothing is as beautiful as it is 90 feet in the air. Thoughts come to me like spider webs floating in the sky in early spring. Sometimes they catch on the pollen, dust, or little seeds and stick onto my brain. They may float from the far distant past, or from another person's mind, or from the tree next to me. I might wonder at the web. Look at that, so dusty and yellow. And then the color of it bursts, penetrating my eyes, ears, mouth, suffocating dust. Sometimes a web attaches to my brain, and then another one joins. I'll follow one for a millisecond, but then another web comes. Once interesting and new, the webs become sticky and obtrusive, entangled, forming a papier-mâché prison around my brain. Many times, you are in the room casting your own spider webs, and they have all sorts of things stuck to them. You don't notice them, but I see them, and I can't help but draw them into me with my intrigue. If I notice it at all, it comes directly towards me, as if my noticing is like a vacuum, a force pulling toward me. Sometimes I can shake it off, realize it's not mine, but many times it bothers me until you leave, and I use my fingers to wipe the webs off. But lots of times, residue is left. Lots of times, the residue builds up so much I begin to think it's always been a part of me. I watched a movie about a genie who could not live on Earth because there were too many signals. His antenna short-circuited, and he couldn't think here. He left. Unmedicated bipolar 2 is like being on the radio channel 89.8 when the music is on 89.9. It's like the sun and its energy. It comes and goes each day, changing everything in its intense shadow. It's like honey mixed with rot. You wish you could enjoy the honey. You taste the sweetness, but experience disgust. It's like a headache that never goes away, a stomach never quite settled, a missing limb with phantom movements. It's like sadness, a well of water at the base of your throat you can't swallow away. It's like that TV where the show plays, but the sound is a half a second off. The lips of the actors don't sync with the words. I once read a book that started by saying her mother is a bird. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited I gobbled up the next pages like I finally had an author who understood. But then I found out it was just a novel. Sometimes I think I see things no one else does. Like the lining between our planet full of wild creatures and the unseen world of spirits, energetics, and divinities is thin. So thin, I can see through it like a translucent curtain in front of a foreign garden. No gravity exists on the other side, and sometimes I drift off the earth. On one hand, bipolar feels terrible, a curse. But I intimately experience a wide range of emotion and realities: sadness, pain, ecstatic joy, pleasure. I am not afraid of you because I am not afraid of me. This makes me wise, compassionate, and with the openness to enjoy the fullness of life. Unmedicated bipolar can suck, but wow, does it expand the universe and increase the bounds of wonder. Okay, I'm gonna do like 3 more breaths. I invite you to do it too. Fully in, and let go. Fully in, and let go. One more time. Fully in, and let go. Okay, thank you. A letter to myself when I was diagnosed with bipolar. What I wish I would have known. Dear Maylene, it's okay. Lots of people with bipolar live thriving lives. You'll be one of those people. 2, it's not your fault. It's a brain issue, like epilepsy. Would you fault an epileptic? 3, you can't fix this. It's a disease. It's something you may deal with your whole life. And just like freckles are often damaging sunspots, it will become part of you. 4, you can't manage it by yourself. You need a team, therapists, PCP, prescribing psychologists, friends, family, safe places. You may lose some friends because of their fears or insecurities. That's okay. More secure ones will come along. 5, you are worth the time and effort it takes to process feelings. Tell your support team and friends when you need a few minutes to process things that come up. They will be more patient than you expect. Being honest about what is happening for you will save your friendships and build intimacy. Get comfortable with canceling plans. Your health and well-being are more important than obligations. 6, you need stability more than others. You have to create it. You have a sensitive brain chemistry, so be careful with anything that destabilizes you. Caffeine, sugar, alcohol, drugs, intense movies, etc. You can't live like other people. Because the inner world is volatile, the more stable your outer world is, the easier it will be to live. If you become a master at getting your inner world stable, you will have achieved something all humans look for: inner peace. You will have the keys to humanity's most treasured dream house. 7, feeling good is not an indicator of being fixed. Like healthy food, you can't get to a healthy weight and then stop eating healthily. Keep taking your medicine. Keep taking care of yourself. 8, you need an emergency plan. Tell your team about it. Place extra medicine in every car and purse you have. 9, you have a closer connection to the unconscious. In stability, you can analyze this and gain wise insights. 10, you know how to fly and you know how to wallow. Become the master of savoring all of it. Become the master of having no fear of any of it. 11, you are strong. Remember that you've made it this far. The same creative life force within you led to the biodiversity of this magnificent planet. Your thriving survival evolves humanity. You have the infinite intelligence of the universe within each of your cells. 12, if you are not stable, don't try to help others. But when you can express and capture how it is to feel, how it is to find stability, peace, how to dance with your demons, how to pivot your thoughts, how to do whatever it is you get good at because of bipolar, share that with the world. You're going to be okay, I promise. I'll be there with you every step of the way. Love, Maylene. I have one more piece, but if you don't mind, we'll do 3 more breaths. Fully in. And exhale. Fully in. And exhale. And fully in. And exhale. Thank you. Managing bipolar. Most people can't tell I have bipolar. I manage it really well now. It's taken me years to find a formula that works most of the time. In managing it well, it is easy to hide, but hiding it is shying away from telling the truth. This is my truth. I spend at least an hour a day doing practices that keep my inner world stable. At first, I wrote a list out of things I do to manage to share with you, but the list is too long. It's summed up by the word care. I make myself green tea in the mornings. When I'm sad, I wrap my arms around my chest and I wipe away my tears. When I'm off my center and can feel the wind pick me up off the ground, I call my therapist or my family for help. I ask myself what it is I need and actively go get it. More often than not, when I feel the energy rise and I have nowhere to go and no one to call, I breathe. I feel my belly. I feel my abdomen. I feel my chest. I feel my throat as air expands each. I breathe in peace. I exhale peace. I breathe in peace. I exhale peace. A few days ago, I woke up to explosions of yellow and suffocation of pollen. I nearly ran to the river by my house. I laid on the ground and held a rock in each hand. I laid there for an hour until the sun came over the foothills. 1,000 lines of rainbow light streamed from the orange sun through the leaves. The difference between me and those rays dissolved, and I remembered, I am here, I am here, I am here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Monday. Tune in.